Your throat tightens, your eyes sting, and you look away, fast, so nobody sees. You are one of 8 billion members of a species that leaks salt water from its face when it feels too much. No other animal on Earth does this. Not the chimp, not the wolf, not the elephant. Only you. And somewhere along the way, you were taught that this ancient, uniquely human thing is a weakness to hide in a bathroom stall. But here's the loop I want you to hold until the end. Your tears were never meant to be private. They were built to be seen. And once you understand why, you may never apologize for them again. Let's go back. Every animal with eyes makes tears. This is not the special kind. These are basal tears, a thin film that keeps the eyeball from drying out, and reflex tears, the flood that comes when you chop an onion or dust blows in. Your dog has these. A crocodile has these. They are plumbing, nothing more. Useful, invisible, forgotten the moment they dry. But somewhere in the long stretch of your evolution, as your ancestors' brains ballooned and their societies grew tangled and complicated, something new appeared, a third kind of tear. A tear triggered not by wind or grit, but by feeling, by grief, by overwhelm, by a tenderness so large the body could not hold it in.
No one is completely sure when the first emotional tear was shed, but we know it is old, and we know it is only yours. Charles Darwin puzzled over it in 1872 in his book on the expression of the emotions. He noticed that weeping seemed to serve no obvious survival purpose, and it bothered him. Why would evolution keep a trait that looks so useless, so fragile, a leaking, blurring, sound-making display right when a creature is at its most vulnerable? Here is the answer he was circling. Picture the world your ancestors lived in. No writing, no hospitals, no words for most of what churned inside a person. You lived in a small band, 40 or 50 people, and your entire life depended on them not abandoning you. A human alone on the ancient savanna was a human who did not survive the week. Not the cold, not the dark, not the things with teeth that hunted in it. Now imagine one of them is in agony. A mother has lost a child. A hunter comes home broken and empty-handed. There are no words deep enough, and even if there were, half the band might not share them. So the body finds another way. The eyes fill, the face crumples, and across the fire, without a single sentence spoken, everyone else knows. That is what a tear is. It is a signal, a flare fired up from the body when language runs out. And here is the part that will stay with you. Emotional tears may be chemically different from the tears an onion pulls out of you. Researchers who study crying, like the Dutch psychologist Ad Vingerhoots, have spent decades on this strange human act, and one recurring idea runs through the work. Emotional weeping is not really about the water at all. It is about the message. A tear is a white flag your body waves that says, without shame, without a word, I cannot carry this alone. Now here's the twist, the thing that flips crying from a flaw into a piece of genius. When you weep hard, your vision blurs. The world goes soft and swimming, and for a moment you cannot see clearly, cannot track a threat, cannot fight, cannot flee. One evolutionary researcher, Oren Hassan, argued that this is not a bug, it is the whole point. Blurred, defenseless eyes are a costly, honest signal. They tell the people in front of you, I have lowered my weapons, I am no threat, I am handing you my guard. It is almost impossible to fake, and that is exactly why it works. A tear is trustworthy precisely because it leaves you undefended.
And there may be something happening inside the water itself. The chemist William Frey spent years collecting human tears in his laboratory, and he found that emotional tears are not identical to the reflex tears an onion causes. They carry more protein. Some researchers have wondered whether crying is, in part, the body flushing something out, though the science there stays cautious and unfinished. What we can say plainly is this: your body treats the tears of grief as a different substance from the tears of a chopped onion. It knows the difference, even when the world tells you there isn't one. And it starts on your very first day. The first thing you ever did, before you could see a face or hold a thought, was cry. It was not sadness. It was a signal, thrown out into the world to a mother you had not yet met, and it worked. She came. She always came. That is the deal your species has run for 2 million years. One of us breaks open, and the rest of us move toward the sound. You have been fluent in this language since before you had a name. Think about what that does to the people around you.
When you cry in front of someone, something in them softens. Their guard drops to meet yours. The urge to compete, to judge, to keep score, quietly dissolves, and an older urge takes its place. Come closer. Help. Stay. Your tears reach into another person and pull gentleness out of them, almost against their will. That is not weakness. That is one of the most sophisticated social tools evolution has ever built, and you were issued it at birth. A snarl pushes others away. A tear pulls them in. For your ancestors, that pull was everything. A person who could signal, "I am hurting, I need you," was a person the group gathered around. A person who could not, who hid every wound behind a flat, hard face, was a person slowly drifting to the edge of the firelight. And the edge, back then, was not loneliness. The edge was death. So the ones who cried, who let themselves be seen soft and shaking, were often the ones who were held, fed, guarded through the night, kept. You are descended from the criers, from the ones brave enough to let their faces fall apart in front of the people they loved, and to trust that those people would move toward them and not away. Their openness is in you. It is not a defect in your design. It is a feature, tested across 100,000 generations that kept your bloodline alive. So why does it feel like a defect now? Because the fire is gone. You do not live in a band of 50 who have known you since the day you were born. You cry in a parked car with the engine off, in a shower with the water running so no one hears, alone at 2 a.m. with a screen glowing on your face. Your body still fires the ancient flare, still sends up the signal that means, "Come closer, help me," but there is no one across the fire to catch it. The message goes out, perfectly formed, into an empty room. And so a system built to summon your whole tribe now just makes you feel ashamed and even more alone than before. It gets worse, because we did not only lose the audience, we built a rule against the signal itself. You were told big kids don't cry. You were told to toughen up, to keep it together, to not make a scene, to save it for later. A whole culture quietly agreed that this 2 million-year-old survival tool is something embarrassing, something to strangle in your throat before anyone notices. And every single time you swallow it down, you are overriding one of the oldest and wisest instincts your species owns, and calling that self-control. So let me hand you something, gently. The next time your eyes sting and your throat closes and that old flare tries to rise, you do not have to fight it. It is not you falling apart. It is you doing the very thing that kept 100,000 generations of humans alive enough to make you. It is your body being honest in the one language that is older than words, older than names, older than the fire itself. And you were never designed to do it in a locked bathroom, muffling the sound, hoping it passes before someone knocks. You were designed to be seen doing it. So the next time your throat tightens and your eyes sting, don't look away. That is not weakness leaking out of you. That is the oldest signal your species has ever sent, asking, the way it always has, to not be carried alone. You pick up your phone, and within seconds you feel it. Someone you know just got the thing you were quietly hoping for. A promotion, a house, a life that looks, from the outside, a few steps ahead of your own. You put the phone back down, but the feeling stays, low and heavy, just beneath your ribs. A small, certain voice that says one word: behind. You are behind. You tell yourself this is silly. You have enough. You are safe. You are fed. Nothing is actually wrong. And still the feeling does not care what you tell it. It just sits there, in your body, like a stone. So step back for a moment. Step back further than this room, further than your job and your feed, and the whole ranking, measuring, comparing modern day, all the way back to the world that feeling was actually built for. Because the stone beneath your ribs is not a flaw in you. It is one of the oldest and most faithful instruments your body owns. And for nearly the entire human story, the thing it measures was the difference between living and dying. Here is what almost nobody tells you. Buried inside you is a system older than language, and it has been quietly measuring one number your whole life. Not your weight, not what you own, your rank, where you sit in the order of the people around you. By the end of this, you will know how it works, why your own blood rises and falls with it, and why the modern world has turned that ancient instrument into a machine that can never, ever be satisfied. Let's go back. Picture the world you were actually made for. Not a city of millions, A band, a few dozen people, maybe as many as 150, and you know every single one of them by face, by voice, by name. You were born among them. You will likely die among them. There is no other world. And in that small world, there is an order. There always is. Whose voice carries weight around the fire? Who gets listened to when a hard choice has to be made? Who eats well when the hunting is good? And far more importantly, who still eats when the hunting is bad? Who is wanted as a mate, and who is quietly passed over?
This is the thing to understand, the thing that changes everything. For your ancestors, rank was never really about pride. It was about the body. It was about food and safety and children. To sit low in that order was not an insult. It was a slow danger. It meant less to eat when the lean months came. It meant less protection when things turned violent. It meant fewer chances to have children who lived. Over enough time, in a hard enough world, the difference between high and low in the band was the difference between a line that continued and a line that ended. So your ancestors' bodies learned to treat rank as life or death because it was. They watched it constantly without ever deciding to. Who is rising, who is falling, where do I stand today, this hour in this group? And when they sensed themselves slipping down, when they felt the group's respect and attention drain away, their bodies did not stay calm. They rang an alarm, the same alarm that fires when a predator is near. A flood of stress chemistry, a body braced for emergency. Because to your ancestors, a fall in status was an emergency, every bit as real as a shape moving low through the grass. And this is not a guess. You can watch it happen in the body right now.
There is a scientist named Robert Sapolsky who spent years in East Africa watching wild baboons. Baboons live, as we once did, in troops with a clear pecking order. And when Sapolsky measured what was actually happening inside their bodies, he found something quietly devastating. The low-ranking baboons, the ones near the bottom of the order, carried more stress hormones in their blood. Their bodies stayed braced, on alert, unable to fully switch the alarm off. Sitting low in the hierarchy was, in the most literal chemical sense, a kind of slow, invisible wound. Now, you might tell yourself, fine, but those are baboons. We are not baboons. We built cities and laws and safety. Surely we left that behind. We did not.
In Britain, beginning in the 1960s, researchers followed thousands of civil servants for decades. Office workers. Everyone employed, everyone housed, no one starving, all of them somewhere on the same long ladder of job grades. And what those researchers found, led by a man named Michael Marmot, is one of the most sobering facts in all of human health. The lower a person's rank, the worse their health and the shorter their life. Not in a single jump from rich to poor, a smooth, steady gradient, step by step, all the way down the ladder. Each rung lower meant a little more illness, a little more risk of an early death, even for people who were, by any old measure, perfectly safe. Marmot gave it a name. He called it the status syndrome. Your place in the order gets under your skin. It always did. So sit with what this means about the feeling beneath your ribs. That anxiety, that gnawing sense of being behind, is not a defect of a shallow, ungrateful mind. It is the alarm doing exactly the job it was built to do. It is a rank tracker older than speech, reading the room, deciding whether you are safe in the order or slipping down it. When you feel that you are falling behind, some ancient part of you is not being petty, it is being protective. It is treating your standing the way it was always meant to, as a matter of survival. But here is the twist that changes everything about your particular life in this particular century. In the band, the order was small, 150 people and no more. And that meant the ladder had a top. You could actually climb it. You could become the one whose voice carried, the one who was wanted, the one who ate well and slept safe. And then the alarm could rest. The rank tracker could look around the whole of your world, see that you stood high in it, and finally, blessedly, go quiet. Your ancestors could win. The instrument was built for a world where winning was possible. Now look at the world you pointed at. You do not live among 150 people anymore. You carry in your pocket a window onto millions. And the modern world does not show you the ordinary millions. It shows you all day long the very top. The richest, the most beautiful, the most successful, the most admired human beings alive, carefully lit and edited and streamed into your hand while you sit on a bus.
Your ancient rank tracker does not know these are strangers. It does not know this is a highlight reel. It simply does what it has always done. It measures you against them, and it reports back again and again the same impossible verdict. You are behind. You are behind. You are behind.
The ladder no longer has a top. Every time you climb a rung, the window shows you someone standing on a higher one. There is always a person richer, thinner, faster, more admired, one swipe away. And so the alarm that was built to fire and then rest never gets to rest. It just rings, quietly, all day, for a race that has no finish line, against people you will never even meet. Remember how new all of this is. For 2 million years, your rank was a real thing, in a real group, that you could actually change. The endless ladder in your pocket is a few thousand days old. Your body never got the chance to learn that these are not your band, that this race cannot be won, that the number it keeps reporting is a lie. To the oldest part of you, it is not a lie. It is the group, and you are losing. So when you feel that stone beneath your ribs, understand what is really happening. You are not vain. You are not shallow. You are not ungrateful for the good, safe life you actually have. You are running a piece of ancient survival software, perfectly tuned for a world of 150 faces, inside a world that shows you 150 million and calls it your competition. The pain is real. The chemistry is real. But the verdict is false. The mismatch is not a flaw in your character. The mismatch is the entire story. None of this makes the feeling simply vanish. You cannot reason an ancient alarm into silence, but you can know it for what it is. You can feel the stone settle beneath your ribs and say quietly, I know you. You are very old, and you are only trying to keep me safe, and the thing you are measuring is not real. You can choose, on purpose, to shrink your world back down, to look at the few faces that are actually your band, the people in the room, the ones who would sit with you when the hunting is bad. That is the order that was ever real. That is the only ladder your body was ever built to climb. So tomorrow you will pick up your phone again, and the window will open, and the top of the world will pour through it, and the old alarm will stir, and the small, certain voice will lean close and say its one word, behind. Let it speak for a moment, and then see it for what it is, not the truth about your life, not the measure of your worth, just the oldest and most faithful instrument you own, still doing the only thing it ever knew how to do, still counting the faces around the fire, still trying, in the only language it has, to keep you alive. Your hand is in a drawer. You are holding a cable. You do not know what it connects to. You have not used it in 4 years, and some quiet part of you already knows you never will, but you cannot drop it. Your fingers close around it, and a small voice in your chest says, keep it. What if you need it someday? Now zoom out. For roughly 300,000 years, members of your species owned almost nothing. Every object a human possessed had to earn its place, because every object had to be carried on a human back across miles of open ground. And yet here you stand, the descendant of those weightless people, in a home holding thousands of objects, unable to release one dead cable into a trash can. Why does letting go hurt? Your brain believes something about that cable, something that was absolutely true for your ancestors and is almost never true for you. Hold that thought, because by the end of this, you will understand why the ache is real, why it is ancient, and why it was designed to be there. Start with the world your body still thinks it lives in. Your ancestors were mobile. Hunter-gatherer bands moved with the seasons, following water, following animals, following ripening plants. Anthropologists who lived with the Juahansi people of the Kalahari, one of the best documented foraging societies on Earth, recorded something that shocked them. A person's possessions were so few that they could be gathered in minutes and carried without strain. A digging stick, a bow, a few containers, some ornaments. That was a life. And this was not poverty. Researchers like Richard Lee found that these foragers met their needs with only a few hours of work a day, and some anthropologists went as far as calling them the original affluent society. They were not rich in things. They were rich in the absence of things. So how did people who owned a handful of objects become people who rent storage units for objects they never see? Here is the first clue. When you own almost nothing, every single object is life support. A cutting edge is not clutter. It is tomorrow's meal. A water container is not a knickknack. In the dry season, it is the difference between crossing the land and dying on it. Lose your fire kit on a cold night, and the night gets very long and possibly very final. In that world, losing a thing could cost vastly more than the thing itself.
Your brain kept score of that math. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky showed in some of the most replicated work in behavioral science that human beings feel losses far more intensely than equivalent gains. Losing something hurts roughly twice as much as gaining the same thing feels good. They called it loss aversion, and it is not a quirk, it is a survival setting. And it goes further. In a famous series of experiments, researchers handed people ordinary coffee mugs, and within minutes, the new owners demanded roughly twice as much money to give up a mug as other people were willing to pay to get one. Nothing about the mug had changed. Ownership changed the brain. The moment a thing becomes yours, your mind quietly reclassifies it. This is part of my survival kit now. Scientists call it the endowment effect. Your garage calls it that box you haven't opened since 2 moves ago. Nature had already run this experiment, by the way. High in the mountain forests, a gray bird called the Clark's nutcracker buries thousands of pine seeds every autumn and remembers enough of the hiding places to eat through the winter. Squirrels do it, jays do it. When winter is real, keeping is not a disorder. Keeping is genius. Your lineage simply learned the trick late and then learned it far too well. Do you see the trap forming?
You carry a mind built for a world where objects were rare, hard to make, and life-critical. And you woke up in a world where objects are endless, nearly free, and mostly meaningless. The alarm that once guarded a fire kit now guards a drawer of dead cables. The circuit did not change. The world did. Watch it work in the old world for a moment. Dawn on a dry savanna. Orange sky, long shadows. The band is moving camp today, heading toward the river country, and a woman kneels by the ashes of last night's fire, deciding what comes and what stays. She lifts a scraping stone, worn smooth by her own hands over 2 seasons. Stone this good took a full day of searching to find. She weighs it in her palm. Every item she takes, she must carry for 3 days of walking, and every item she leaves, she may never replace. Her daughter watches. This is the lesson. You keep what keeps you alive, and you release everything else, because carrying has a cost of its own. Weight was the original clutter. Her people solved it every single time they moved. Then, around 12,000 years ago, the walking stopped. Farming arrived, and with it came houses, granaries, walls. For the first time in the history of your lineage, a human being could accumulate more than a human back could carry, and the cost of keeping things quietly fell toward 0. Keep a broken pot, and it costs you nothing. Keep a jar of seed grain, and it might carry your family through a failed harvest. Storage stopped being impossible and started being wisdom. The people who kept things survived the bad years. The people who kept things became your ancestors. And here is the twist. You have probably been told that hoarding is the ancient instinct, some deep caveman greed for piles of stuff. It is almost exactly backwards. Your deepest ancestors were the most ruthless declutterers who ever lived, because their own legs kept them honest. What is ancient is not the pile. What is ancient is the pain of loss, the alarm that fires when something leaves your hand forever. For 300 millennia, that alarm was priced for a world where a lost tool could mean a lost life. Then storage became free. The alarm never got the memo, and the pile is simply what happens when an ancient alarm meets an endless supply. So look at your home again with those eyes. This is why throwing away feels like danger, while acquiring feels like nothing. Gaining was always the cheap part for your brain. Losing was always the expensive part. This is why just in case feels so convincing. On the savannah, just in case was frequently correct. This is why it is so much easier to carry a bag into the house than to carry one out. And you are not imagining the weight of it all. Researchers at UCLA who studied ordinary families in their own homes found that living surrounded by dense clutter measurably raised stress in the people who had to manage it. The savannah solved clutter with distance. Your house has no 3rd day of walking. But notice something gentler underneath all of this. The box of your grandmother's letters, your child's first drawings, the ticket stub from a night that changed your life. When your hand refuses to release those, that is not a malfunction either. In a forager band, objects were rare enough that a carried thing meant something. This came from someone. This holds a story. This is who we are. An heirloom is ancient technology for holding on to people who are gone. Your brain is not confused about those letters. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do, keeping the dead close to the fire a little longer.
So what do you do with a drawer full of alarms? You do not need to become a monk, and you do not need another storage bin. You need to renegotiate with a very old guard. When you hold an object and feel that flare of, what if I need it? Name what is actually happening. That is loss aversion. That is a Stone Age price tag stuck on a modern trinket, and the price is wrong. Then ask the forager's question instead. Not, could this ever be useful, because almost anything could. Ask, would I carry this on my back for 3 days to keep it? Your ancestors asked that question every time they moved, and it kept their lives light enough to survive. And be kind about the rest. You are not lazy, you are not broken. You are running scarcity software in a world of abundance, and the guilt you feel about the clutter is just the collision of those two worlds, happening quietly in your chest. So go back to the drawer. Your hand is around the cable again, and the small voice says, what if? This time, you know how old that voice is. You know what it was built to protect, and you know that the danger it remembers is gone. Think it. It kept your people alive for 300,000 years. Then open your hand.
You lift the carton to your face, and you smell it before your mind can even form the word. Sour. Wrong. Your head pulls back on its own, your nose wrinkles, your upper lip climbs toward it, and something at the very back of your throat tightens like a small door swinging shut. You didn't decide to do any of that. By the time you thought the word spoiled, your body had already finished the sentence for you. Now step back from the kitchen. Step back past this apartment, past the refrigerator humming behind you, past every clean and sealed and labeled thing in the room. Step back far enough that the fridge disappears and the shops disappear, and you are standing on open ground under a wide sky, with nothing to keep your food or your water or your body safe, except the senses you were born with. You have been taught to treat that little flinch as nothing, to call it being squeamish, picky, dramatic, too sensitive. You apologize for it, for gagging at the drain, for looking away when someone describes a wound, for the way your whole face folds when a friend tells the story of the thing that had gone bad. Somewhere along the way, you learned that disgust is a weakness, a fussiness, a thing that stronger people simply don't feel. But that flinch is one of the oldest guardians you carry. It is older than language, older than farming, older than the very idea of a kitchen. And the thing it was built to protect you from is something your ancestors never once saw with their own eyes. Hold on to that, because it is the whole secret of this feeling. For almost the entire human story, the deadliest thing in the world was invisible, and disgust was the only sense that could point straight at it. But how can a feeling protect you from something you can never see? More than 150 years ago, a naturalist named Charles Darwin sat and studied the exact face you just made. He noticed something strange about it. It looked the same on people who had never met, who had grown up oceans apart and shared no language at all. The wrinkled nose, the lifted lip, the head turning away, sometimes the tongue pushing out as if to spit invisible food from the mouth. No one had taught them that face. It was already there, the same shape, appearing at the same kind of thing everywhere he looked. And that scrunched, narrowed face is not only an opinion your features are announcing. When researchers measured what the disgust expression actually does to the body, they found that it seals you. It narrows the eyes, it lowers how much air moves through the nose, it shrinks the world you take in. Compare it to fear, which throws the eyes wide and flares the nostrils to pull the whole threatening world in closer. Two ancient faces, one that opens the body to see the danger, and one that closes the body against it. Disgust is the face that shuts the doors. But what could be dangerous enough that your body evolved to face just to seal itself against it? A researcher named Paul Rosen spent much of his life on that question. He found that disgust follows a rule so strange it almost sounds like magic. Drop a single dead, sterilized insect into a glass of juice, then lift it back out, and you will not drink the juice, even though you truly know that nothing harmful is left in it. Shape a piece of clean fudge like something foul, and your hand will not bring it to your mouth, though you watched it made from a fresh block. Rosen called this the law of contagion. Once two things have touched, a part of one stays in the other, forever. To a mind that has never heard the word germ, that rule is almost a perfect defense. The thing that touched the rotten thing now carries the rot. Then a scientist named Valerie Curtis asked what all of it was for, and gathered reactions from many thousands of people across the world. The things that disgusted them most were not scattered or random, they clustered tightly. Bodily waste,
rotting flesh, oozing sores, swarming insects, the smell and sight of sickness on another person's body.
Which is to say, the precise signatures of things that carry infection. Disgust, she argued, is a disease avoidance system wearing the costume of an emotion. And there is a name for the larger machine it belongs to. Before your blood ever learns to fight an invader, there is a faster and far cheaper defense. Simply never touch the thing at all. A researcher named Mark Schaller called this the behavioral immune system, a set of reactions, with disgust at its very center, that reads the surface of the world and yanks you backward before a single unseen thing can get inside. Your biological immune system is the soldier who fights once the enemy is already through the gate. Disgust is the wall, built long before the war. So stand back on that open ground for a moment and let it be real. There is meat from a kill 2 days old, and you are hungry, the deep, aching hunger that has no refrigerator to end it. One of your band leans in, too starving to care, and eats. You lean in too, and your nose catches something underneath the smell of food, something Swedish and wrong, and your whole body recoils and turns you away, still hungry, into the dark. For a few days, it looks as though hunger was the wiser choice.
But by the next moon, the one who ate is bent double and burning and then gone, and you, the one who could not stand the smell, are still walking, still breathing, still alive to have children who inherit that same easily offended nose. Now multiply that single night by 10,000 generations. Every one of your ancestors won that quiet gamble enough times to live and pass it on. You are the descendant of the ones who flinched. And if disgust truly is a shield against disease, then it should grow strongest at the exact moment the body is most defenseless, shouldn't it? It does. A researcher named Daniel Fessler found that disgust tends to rise sharply in the early weeks of pregnancy, the very window when a woman's immune system quiets itself to protect the new life taking hold, and the tiny growing body is most fragile. The inner guard is lowered, and so the outer guard, the disgust, is raised to cover it. Here is the twist, though, the thing that turns this from a story about spoiled meat into a story about you. What if the smell was never the point at all? Disgust was never really about the smell. The smell is only the easiest clue. What the feeling is actually chasing is something you cannot see. The contamination, the contact, the unseen thing that spreads from one body to the next.
That is why it obeys the strange rule of contagion, and why it can be set off by things that carry no germ at all. A photograph, a sentence, a single word spoken across a table. And a machine this powerful, once it exists, does not stay politely in the kitchen. It climbs upward, into the way you judge people and ideas and each other. Have you ever noticed how easily that word travels? Listen to the words you already use. A rotten person, a sick joke, a dirty deal. That makes me want to throw up. You never chose to speak that way. The oldest disease language inside you simply reaches for the nearest wrong thing and names it unclean. Researchers have watched that same recoil, the same folded face, aim itself not at bad food, but at people a group has decided to treat as impure. That is the long shadow of this gift. The wall that kept your ancestors alive can be pointed, and history is heavy with the harm done when one kind of person is taught to find another kind disgusting. The wall does not stop to ask what it is shutting out. Now come back, all the way back, to the clean and quiet room. Almost everything your disgust was built to fight is gone from it. The water is filtered, the meat is chilled, the wound is dressed by someone wearing gloves. But the guard does not know that the war is over.
So where does all that ancient vigilance go in a world scrubbed this clean? It still stands at its full and ancient height, and so it fires at the mild and the harmless, the coworker's lunch 2 desks away, the texture of a food you've simply never tried, the small ick that quietly ends something good before it can begin. And because so little truly dangerous is left for it to find, the old alarm goes searching at strangers, at differences, at anything at all that happens to pattern match to wrong. So the next time your face folds and you feel that flush of embarrassment, understand what is really happening in you. It is not weakness.
It is not you being delicate or dramatic or too much. It is a caretaker that has kept your line unbroken since before your species had a name, doing the single job it has ever known, trying with everything it has to keep something out of you. You are allowed to thank it, and you are allowed, gently, to question it too, because a guardian this old cannot always tell a true threat from a stranger who merely looks unfamiliar. Feeling the flinch is simply human. What you decide to do after it, that part has always been yours. So lift the curtain one more time. Smell the sourness and feel your head pull back before you have chosen to. That small, involuntary flinch is not a flaw in you.
It is 2 million years of the invisible dead, still warning you through a nose that has never once seen the thing it fears. You sit down to do the one thing that matters. You open the page, you put your hands on the keys. You tell yourself, just this, just for a little while. And then, without ever deciding to, you are somewhere else. A tab you don't remember opening. A phone that is suddenly, mysteriously already in your hand. A thought about something you need to buy. A thing someone said to you 3 days ago. A small worry about tomorrow. You blink and 20 minutes are gone. And the one thing that mattered is still sitting there, untouched, quietly watching you. So you reach for the word you always reach for. Lazy, broken, undisciplined. You decide one more time that something inside you is simply wrong. But step back for a moment. Step back further than this desk, further than the open tabs and the glowing screens, past the whole restless modern day, all the way back to the world your attention was actually built for. Your focus did not evolve to sit pointed at a screen for hours. It was shaped for something else entirely, in a place where holding perfectly still on a single task was one of the most dangerous things you could do. So here is something almost nobody tells you. Your ancestors could not focus the way you are demanding of yourself either, and that is the exact reason you exist.
For nearly the whole human story, a mind that locked onto one thing and shut out everything else was not a gift. It was a way to die young. And buried in your brain right now is an ancient reflex, older than language, that never once asked your permission. It fires before you decide anything at all. It is the reason your head turns toward the sudden sound, the flicker of movement, the thing at the very edge of your eye. By the end of this, you will know its name, why it is there, and how a handful of the smartest companies on Earth learn to pull its trigger all day long. Let's go back. Picture yourself on an open grassland 100,000 years ago, crouched at the edge of a thicket, digging for roots. It is warm. The work is dull. Your hands already know what to do. And this is the exact moment you are in the most danger. Because a body bent over one task, eyes down, mind narrowed to the patch of dirt in front of it, is a body that does not see the shape moving low through the grass. It does not hear the birds go suddenly silent. It does not notice the light begin to change. Now picture the one crouched beside you, whose mind will not settle. Every few seconds their eyes come up. They catch the grass moving the wrong way. They notice the silence before you do. They are already standing, already stepping back, while the focused one is still happily digging. Ask yourself which of those two is your ancestor. It is not the one who could focus. It is the one who couldn't. The one whose attention kept lifting off the task and sweeping the horizon again and again and again is the one who lived long enough to have children. You are the great-grandchild 10,000 times over of the distractible. This is the first thing to understand about the mind you keep fighting. Your attention was never built to be a spotlight, a single bright beam you aim and hold. It was built to be a stanner. Its whole genius is that it will not stay put. It rests lightly on whatever you are doing, and it is designed in every single moment to be interrupted, because for almost all of human history, the interruption was the important part. The rustle was information. The flicker was information. The thing you did not expect was the thing most likely to decide whether you lived or died. There is a reflex underneath this, and scientists mapped it out more than half a century ago. They call it the orienting response. It is the involuntary turn of the head, the sudden sharpening of the senses, the small quiet freeze that happens the instant something new appears. You do not choose it. A door clicks in another room, and your attention is already there before you know you heard it. A shape moves in the corner of your vision, and your eyes are pulled toward it before a single thought arrives. This is not a weakness bolted onto your focus. It is a deeper, faster, older system running underneath it, and it has only one commandment. Never let the task in front of you blind you to the new thing at the edge. And there is a second ancient pressure, just as strong, pulling in the same direction.
Imagine you find a bush heavy with berries. You eat, it is good. But every berry you pick makes the next one a little harder to find, the bush a little emptier. And somewhere out past the trees, always, is another bush you cannot see. So your mind begins to itch. A restlessness rises in you. Is it still worth staying here? Or is it time to move on? Every creature that forages for a living carries this exact question, and the ones who answered it well are the ones who kept eating. Stay too long on the emptying bush, and you starve slowly. Leave too soon, and you waste what you had. The tension never truly resolves. It just hums quietly, forever, in the back of the mind.
That same hum is still in you. It is the pull you feel away from the thing in front of you and toward the thing you cannot quite see yet. It is why the task you are on, the moment it turns a little dull, a little depleted, begins to feel like an empty bush. And here is what that restlessness bought your ancestors. It was not only escape from danger, it was discovery. The mind that wandered was the mind that found the new water, the better stone, the richer valley over the ridge. Every good thing your species ever stumbled onto was found by someone whose attention refused to stay home. Your wandering mind is not a malfunction. It is an explorer. It is doing the oldest arithmetic it knows, asking over and over whether there is something better just past the edge of what you are looking at. So here's the twist, the thing that should quietly rearrange how you see every distracted afternoon of your life.
Distraction is not the breakdown of your attention. Distraction is your attention working exactly as it was designed to work. The wandering, the scanning, the itch to check, the pull toward the new. All of it is a single, ancient, beautifully tuned survival system, doing precisely the job it was shaped across millions of years to do. What we call focus, that long, unbroken, blinkers-on concentration on one dull thing, is the strange part. That is the unnatural act. You are not failing to be normal. You are being asked, for hours at a time, to override one of the oldest instincts you own. And now, sit with what the modern world has quietly done with that instinct. Because a system this powerful, this automatic, this impossible to switch off, is not just a private quirk of yours, it is a door. And on the other side of that door sit some of the most brilliant, best-funded people alive, whose entire job, all day, is to work out which rustle in the grass you cannot ignore.
The buzz in your pocket is a rustle in the grass. The small red dot is a flicker of movement at the edge of your eye. The endless feed that never runs out is the berry bush that refills itself the very instant you look away. So the old question, is there something better just ahead, can never once be answered. And so you scroll, and the ancient hum never gets to rest. Every ping, every notification, every video that plays on its own is a tiny, perfect counterfeit of the exact signals your ancestors could not afford to miss. Your orienting response cannot tell the difference between a leopard and a pop-up. It simply fires. It was built to fire. It fired for 2 million years and kept your bloodline alive. And now it fires 40, 50, 100 times a day for things that were engineered on purpose by people who understood it to set it off. Remember how new all of this is. Screens like these have existed for a heartbeat, a few thousand days against 2 million years of grass and sky. Your mind never got the chance to learn that the buzz is not a leopard. To the deepest part of you, it still is.
So when you cannot sit still with the one thing that matters, understand what is really happening. You are not weak, you are not broken, you are not missing some quiet virtue that everyone else was handed at birth. You are running a piece of ancient survival software, flawless in the world it was made for, inside a world that has been carefully, deliberately built to hijack it. The mismatch is not a flaw in you. The mismatch is the entire story. None of this means you are helpless. A mind like yours can still be pointed and held and brought gently back again and again and again. But it changes what the effort actually is. You are not repairing something defective. You are asking a wild, watchful, ancient thing to stay for just a little while in a room it was never designed for. That is hard. It is supposed to be hard. And the tiredness you feel afterward is not proof that something is wrong with you. It is proof of how strong the old instinct still is. So tomorrow you will sit down again to do the one thing that matters. You will open the page, you will put your hands on the keys, and your mind will lift off and go wandering,
out toward the edge of things, the way it always has.
Let it be for one moment what it truly is. Not a broken machine, not a failure of will, just the oldest and most faithful guardian you own, still doing the only thing it ever knew how to do, still sweeping the tall grass for the shape that might be coming, still keeping watch over you, the way it always used to.